Good morning and welcome to the Point. It is Tuesday, December 29th, 2020. Thank you to those of you joining us on the GBN Grenada Broadcasting Network's Facebook page, the Grenada Broadcasting Network's YouTube channel, the website www.gbn.gd, GBN TV channel 7, 11 and 20, and good morning to the listeners of Classic 105.5, 105.9. This morning I have joining me is a representative of the National Democratic Congress, Mr. Phillip Alexander, and the topic on the front burner this morning is the WRB shares as the situation, the electricity saga unfolds. Good morning, Mr. Alexander. How are you doing?
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
No problem at all.
Greetings to all in the diaspora, wherever you are in the world. Special greetings from Grenada. Urging you to stay safe. I know it's challenging, but we are encouraging you, wherever you are, to do your best to stay safe. We need you. We need your services. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Just tilt the device a little bit. Don't take out some of the room on top of your head. Right. There we go.
Okay?
Yes, that's better. All right. So let's get right into it. Over the past few days, I believe it was Christmas Eve that we started to see the information being circulated in relation to the shares at Greenlick previously owned, or should I say still owned possibly, by WRB. And that has been a topical conversation in Grenada over the Christmas holidays getting into today. A protest was held yesterday as well as today, I understand, in front of the ministerial complex. So I wanted to get the NDC's take on everything that has been happening. From your point of view, or from the party's point of view, what is the current situation that we are going through right now with relation to those Greenlick shares?
Well, first of all, I think you hit it right on the head in your initial statement, stating that we are not certain as to what the situation is because of the lack of information. And that, to me, speaks volumes about the way our government is taking us for granted and the way they are conducting our business. After all, they are our trustees. They are holding this in trust for Grenada, for the people of Grenada, and not to inform the people of Grenada on the basis of some fly-by-night explanation is, in my mind, very disappointing. Very disappointing. And that is hence our speculation as we speak. It is not for want of asking. The National Democratic Congress has been out there seeking this information on the behalf of the people of Grenada. The people of Grenada are asking, well, tell us, let us know what is the situation as it pertains to the shares that we, the people of Grenada, own. You yourself just stated that you're not sure if it is already our shares, or we have more shares, or the shares owned by WRB to be transferred. That is part of the challenge that we face. We need to know what is the status. And that, to me, is speaking volumes of the way the government of Grenada, led by Dr. Kit Mitchell, is conducting the business of this country. Thank you.
Could it be a situation of... Well, no. First, let's deal with the WRB side of the story. Have you been able to read what WRB issued to its workers?
Yes,
and
indeed.
what have you gotten from it in terms of the sale, the transfer, those shares?
Right. I get it from the information, and the first line, if you can put it up on the screen so the viewers can have a look at it, that'd be great. That he says that we are reached an agreement for the selling of the shares. So they have not. In my mind, there is no confirmation that has been done. But the information that we are hearing on the ground is that has a fait accompli. It is already been completed, and therefore, it is just a matter of telling us, the Grenadian people. And that, to me, is where the lines are drawn. After all, if you're a trustee, you need to inform the trust. We, the people of Grenada, we are the holders of the trust. You need to inform us what is happening. So you can't complete, but listen, the government of Grenada just presented the national budget less than a month ago. We had 2 national addresses by the Prime Minister. the person who is first among equals, representing the government of Grenada and representing the people of Grenada's interests in this matter. You mean he didn't dawn on anybody that the least they could say is, well, dog and cat of Grenada, are we doing something about the shares in Grenlec? Not a word, according to my grandmother, jouk joli, nothing. No, but that is the reality. And that is what we are experiencing. And that is why when former Prime Minister Thomas said that there is a deficit in governance, that is the kind of thing we're speaking about, Is that kind of lack of respect and regard for the people. After all, it is ours. The Constitution of Grenada guarantees that. It guarantees our knowledge in anything that is pertaining to us. We need to know, we have a right to know. So to disregard any semblance of information on the basis of some deal that you and somebody else have struck is to say that you are disrespectful to us. And that is with great, that isn't sitting well with the people of Grenada. It is not sitting well with the National Democratic Congress, and it's certainly not sitting well with the people of Grenada at this time.
Could it be that government just wants to make sure that all its ducks are in a row, all the T's are crossed, all the I's are dotted before I tell the public this is what is happening?
Excellent. And that is, I appreciate that. That may be the case, but at least you could, one thing you should be able to do is to say to the people of Grenada, this is what is happening. We are lining up the ducks. The situation is X, Y, Z, and we are lining up the ducks. You mean that we don't even deserve that, Blossom? Answer that to yourself. I mean, you really think that the people of Grenada don't deserve to be told not even that which you have just said? That the ducks are being lined up? You remember we just indicated, we had the budget. Remember, the figures I'm hearing in excess of 60 million, and that is for the shares of WRB and its associates. That is kind of money that man building international airport with, almost $200 million, That is the kind of money that people spend that changes lives in a country forever. This is the young people of Grenada whose lives have been indebted here. So we must recognize that the people of Grenada at least could and ought to be told what the situation is. At the moment, we are left in the dark in what is our business. You can't have holding interest from me and not being able to tell me something. And that is where the lines are drawn. And that is why I ask the people of Grenada, let us ask questions of our MPs. Let us ask questions of our government. What is the position? Tell us. We are all big people. We are all capable of thinking for ourselves. And we need to know. We have a right to know. The Constitution guarantees that. Remember, you have other Grenadians who own shares in this very company. What are their position in this? You have employees of that very company and their families who are dependent on the income. What is their position in this? You mean that there is no regard for the people of Grenada enough in your mind that you don't need to tell us anything? People of Grenada, wake up. Wake up. Thank you.
One of the questions coming from the members of the public as well, and even at the protest yesterday, if indeed government is buying back those shares, where did it get its money from? I recall at the budget presentation there was, or not even at the budget presentation, subsequently they spoke of getting a $330 million loan to finance the budget. And that is probably the only sourcing of funds that I can recall off the top of my head. So the question is, where do you think the money is coming from to purchase those shares? How can government afford? Let me put it that way. How can government afford to buy those $200 million worth of shares?
Right. Well, first of all, we are not in a position to say, and that is part of the questions that we're asking.
Correct.
Tell us where this money is coming from. After all, you have just presented the national budget. You have that obligation to lay before the people of Grenada and the parliament of our country that the information, so you have a responsibility. And to leave us out of this discussion and to not letting us know, I can't speak for the government. So I would suggest in the good role that GBN and all other media houses play in our country. After all, you're the fifth estate. You have a responsibility to help the people of Grenada to find that out. There is an opposition leader, and matters of this nature ought to be discussed in the parliament of our country, and we owe it to the people of Grenada to tell them. So, like you, I would wish that your source, your employers, the media fraternity, MWAG, and the entire media crew, let's hear from you. Let's hear you asking these important questions that the National Democratic Congress keep asking, and we're not getting answers. So we want you to help us in these circumstances.
I can confidently say it's not for a lack of trying that we haven't been able to get the information. We've been trying.
And same here. The National Democratic Congress has been trying. So it is with utter disrespect and disregard and contempt that the government of Grenada, led by Dr. Mitchell, is holding us. Unless if you don't want to call it that way, somebody needs to be saying that this is total disregard for the people of Grenada in our own business. How could we be sitting here not having the information, urging, pleading, begging you, the government of Grenada, led by Dr. Mitchell, for this information, and you find it, no, not a word to us. We don't deserve better than this. We don't deserve better. After all, you're representing our interests. You're the custodian of state. You owe it to the people of Grenada. And that is a real challenge. It burns my inside. It burns the people of Grenada belly when these things are done. And that is fundamental. I mean, I would use other words in other circumstances to describe this, but I find this utterly disrespectful and disparaging of me and the people of Grenada as a citizen of this country. I really find that disparaging.
Another comment that has come from members of the public, some members of the public, is that the ownership or the control, if indeed government does buy back those shares, the ownership of the electricity company is back in the hands of the Prime Minister and Minister Bowen. Is that a concern of the NDC as well, considering, let's say, the findings from the Worrell report? Is this a concern?
Indeed. And I mean, well, now we're stuck in the other details that we are making that conclusion that the very persons to whom the Worrell report spoke so widely about and urging that type of behavior does not continue, never again in the governance of our country, is hook, line, and sinker in the middle of the thing. The very person who was the manager is now the line minister. The person who was then the line minister is now the prime minister in this matter. It therefore speaks to a deeper sense as to what has changed over 26 years ago. What are you saying to the young people of our country? You are the same people, and you put us right back into that same pile of thing. Right back there. You, 26 years ago, you were at the helm. Today, you are still at the helm. You imagine the amount of persons who were born after in the last 30 years, who knows nothing else, who does not even recall and never had any inclination, many of the young people of this country, of the kind of load shedding challenges, the blackouts that we had 35 years ago, what we have changed Grenlec and what Grenlec has become, a first-class, international reputed company giving us high-quality service, ensuring the energy security, the electrical security of our country, and we're going right back there. It's almost deja vu. We're right back there again. Remember, if what we are reading from the various, we now have controlling shares. We now have more than 50% shares, the government of Grenada. I don't know if it has been transferred. I don't know what is the basis of it. So what are we doing with these shares? What are we going to do with them? And of course, we have them now in the government of Grenada hands. So we'll urge the current minister and the present prime minister to do what is honorable and get out of this soonest. So we need to be giving opportunities to our young people to say to them, you must now become shareholders, not the government of Grenada, because you yourself acknowledge that government is not most efficient at running these matters. Are you giving us opportunities? Are you calling on the people in the diaspora to say, this is an opportunity for you to invest in our country because we now have 70% of the shares? Are you giving us that opportunity? Not a word out of us. Are you telling us that you are saying to the people of Grenada, we are going to GDB and we are going to, young people, once you're below the age of 35, you can get a special rated loan to purchase shares in Grenlec. And you can then turn around and repay us on the basis of the dividends that we have. So it lets you own a bit of that company. And you're talking to our people like that? This is the vision that the National Democratic Congress is talking about. So it's not about only taking back the shares and who are the two persons in charge. What are we going to do with them from here? What is the role? We have built a capacity within Grenlec, as the letter from WRB stated. How are we going to leverage that capacity? Are we going to share the spoils of the interests to be transferred with the workers who have built and leveraged their skills over the years? Many of these workers have shares. Are you giving them a special opportunity to earn more shares? Are those who are new to the company to earn shares? These are the questions that needs to be answered. But we can't answer them when you're not regarding us, when you're not involving us. And listen, this is what the National Democratic Congress is about, empowering people. Are we talking to young professional people and saying, sisters and brothers, this is an opportunity for us to earn part of our own little yard, of our ground, of our territory, and investment in the future? Are you calling on the diaspora? The many professional people who are out there might just be looking for an investment in this COVIDious times. You have nothing to say to us. Absolutely nothing. All that we can do is to draw conclusions from what we're hearing from third parties. That is not right. That can't be right for us. We need to think ahead of this blossom. We need to give people opportunity. We need to be talking, well, now that the people of Grenada has these shares. Because it's the people of Grenada shares, it's not Kit Mitchell and Gregory Bowen shares. It's not their shares. It's the people of Grenada shares. So you are now saying, are we now in a position to share this income generating opportunity with the young people, with the people in the diaspora, with the people of Grenada generally? And what vehicles are you going to use to help them to do that? That is what we should be talking about today. Not silence, not a deafening silence that none of us appreciate. After all, they owe it to us.
There's a question on the WhatsApp, well, a statement actually, that says picking between the government or the Chinese to buy back the shares is like picking between so bad and so worse. So the question is, between the government repurchasing the shares and taking control, or a foreign country being asked to do so, which would be better for Grenada, and the electricity? So
right. So first of all, I don't know. I can't speak to who will purchase shares. And I don't want to get into the issue of nationalities and at this stage.
Agreed.
That is not where the National Democratic Congress is.
Agreed.
We have a responsibility. And I have just advanced 3 possible areas of share purchase and relationship that we can think about. Offering special rates to the young people of Grenada. We have just spoken to offering this opportunity to professionals, locals, and keeping it within the local community. And we have also said that we have not heard anything about the diaspora. What is their role in this, in terms of the investment and the investment opportunity that this creates for us? And that is the kind of questions that need to be asked and need to be answered quickly by the government of Grenada. We need that kind of information so that as a people, remember, Blossom, maybe it's before your time, the revolution built the international airport. And the people of Grenada, the government of Grenada, through the People's Revolutionary Government, went out there in the local community, sold shares. Many local persons bought shares here. Many persons in the diaspora bought bonds that we were able to use to finance the airport. That was the gateway to the world. And that's what I'm saying to you, when we're making a decision of this nature, we're talking almost $200 million plus. This is an opportunity to change the lives of a state, of a country. So this is not a joke thing. This is not about Kip Mitchell and Gregory Bowen. This is about the people of Grenada. And we need to be told, we need to be clear where we are and where are we going with this. So we ought not to be sitting down on our laurels and waiting for somebody to be telling us what to be doing, what we should be doing. We as the people of Grenada, and that is why the National Democratic Congress is providing this opportunity and calling on the government to be clean with us. Let us know what is your thinking, where you are, because you owe it to us. You are the stewards. You are holding this in trust for us. The people of Grenada deserve better. Every child who is not yet born, if this is a debt that they have to repay, the parents today must help them make a decision. So I urge that the government of Grenada come clean with the people of Grenada on this matter.
What can the NDC do to not pressure, but encourage government to come forward with the information in a timely manner? Not just come forward with it in a timely manner, as well as what can the NDC do to ensure that the shares or the majority ownership of GrenLec does not, let's say, fall into the wrong hands? What role can the NDC play in this process?
Well, first of all, we are starting here because the National Democratic Congress has made, once we got wind of this last week, we were out there in the media calling on people to call on the government to give us information. So we have been in the forefront of this. What I'm doing here is part of this. Sister Claudette will be in another media opportunity later on. We have been calling on so many of the National Democratic Congress activists. The persons demonstrating yesterday are all members of the National Democratic Congress. So the National Democratic Congress has been in the forefront, and we call on others to join us in seeking information on this matter. After all, as I indicated earlier on, you owe it to us. But you have a constitutional responsibility. Remember, you have over 1,600 people, Grenadians, local people who already own shares. And you, in the Constitution of Grenada, you're guaranteed your property, your private property cannot be. And remember, we have case law all the way up to the Privy Council to that effect. That you can't take the private property of people and transfer it to anyone else without the person's agreement. So we must be clear what is the government intention. And that is the complications that we see in this thing, And that is when this so-called top secret deal doesn't speak well for the way you're doing business. Because after all, we need to know you have an obligation under the Constitution to tell us, to tell the shareholders. You can't transfer the people's property just so. You cannot. So therefore, you need the Parliament. So why are you keeping it away from us? We are in this together. After all, this is our land. We are the citizens of Grenada. That includes every island, from Petite Martinique in the north to Isla Runa, wherever else down the road. Every single blade of grass belongs to the people of Grenada. It does not belong to Gregory Bowen and Kit Mitchell. It belongs to us. And we must know. We have a right to know. They have a constitutional responsibility to provide that information. But we need to know where, as a people, we are going with this. Young people of Grenada, I call on you, tell us. Come forward. We have just shared with you ideas. Wouldn't you want to own a piece of the pie? Wouldn't you want to own some important shares at this stage? Isn't it a good opportunity to give special rates to young people through the Grenada Development Bank? Giving the bank profits, giving young people a stake in our own development? Wouldn't it be wise for us to consider the important role of budding professionals, young professional people who might have disposable income and want to invest in a profitable company, as indicated by the letter from WRB? We have left you with a company and a capable team that is of international repute. Wouldn't the people in the diaspora find this an opportune time to invest in their own country, in their homeland? Why are you keeping this away from us? Why are you not telling us what are the opportunities that are out there? So whether or not there is a foreign ownership interest or interest by a foreign investor, that is important, and we may well require some involvement of some foreign ownership, some foreign investor in the matter. The National Democratic Congress is not against foreign investment, but what are the opportunities that you're giving to us Grenadians? If we have controlling shares to the tune of above 70%, isn't it reasonable that we can be now talking of Grenadian people owning at least 49% of the shares, or even 51%? Because I understand the importance of the economics and investor input. Isn't it things of that nature that we should be talking at this program today, rather than asking you for information? This is what the National Democratic Congress is about. This is what we are calling on you to tell us, and this is why we want the information. We are not telling you that the deal is off and we are about to do like what you said back in 26 years ago. Not over my dead body, I will reverse this deal. That's not what the National Democratic Congress is. We are saying to you, let us go forward from here. We need the information so that we can make reasonable, wise decisions. So it is not about a foreign investor or a non-foreign investor. It's about the opportunities that you are not prepared to tell us about. And that is disparaging, that is disrespectful, Mr. Prime Minister. Mr. Gabriel Bowen, you are the Minister of Finance. You take an oath. And let me tell you, there are certain parts of the Constitution the people of Grenada need to be aware of. Let's go to Section 63. Let's find out. Can't we appeal to the Governor General? Because after all, as the head of state, somebody needs to be, if we're not getting information, somebody needs to be acting on our behalf. Let us not miss those opportunities. People of Grenada, I urge you to wake up. This is a call from the National Democratic Congress. What are we going to do going forward?
On that note, let's take a break and come back and continue the discussion. We're speaking with Mr. Phillip Alexander of the NDC as we continue to follow this developing situation in relation to the shares at Gurenlek. This is To The Point. We'll be right back.
From Monday, November 2nd to Thursday, December 31st, GBN's Christmas Caravan will be blazing the trail of goodness across Grenada. Join us as we journey daily to find the hottest deals this Christmas season. Win prizes from our partners. Get recipes for your favorite Christmas treats and bust a tune in the Christmas Karaoke Fun segment. It's GBN's Christmas Caravan. Weekdays from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. Live on Classic Radio 105.5 and 105.9. GBN Television Channels 7 and 11. GBN's Facebook page and GBN's YouTube channel. Your mid-mornings will never be the same.
The Christmas Caravan is brought to you in part by Hubbard's and the Food Fair Supermarkets, Kittens Healthcare, Sisson Spade, and Bryden and Miners and Ace Hardware.
Grenada's Chief Medical Officer has ordered that all confirmed positive COVID-19 individuals, their contacts, and members of their household must remain in quarantine or isolation for 14 days. Anyone who fails to comply with this order will be in breach of the Public Health COVID-19 Regulations 2020 and is guilty of an offense. Upon summary conviction, that person will be liable to a penalty of up to $10,000. A message from the Ministry of Health.
You've spoken, we have heard. Now we're making more time available for your evening primetime shows on K105. From Monday, July 6th, Your Law will air from 6 to 7 p.m. On Tuesdays, Simply Agriculture. And on Wednesdays, join discussions on constitution reform in partnership with Island Media. At 5:55 p.m., we bring you news headlines, a capsule on local, regional, and international events, followed by news at 7 via simulcast with GBN Television. Join Godfrey Augustine for stimulating discussions on Release It from 8 p.m. on Wednesdays and Thursdays. GBN's K105.5 and 105.9. We're with you everywhere and anywhere. If you're on the move, catch us online at www.gbn.gd.
Welcome back to The Point, speaking with a representative of the National Democratic Congress, Mr. Phillip Alexander, in relation to the WRB shares and the NDC requesting information from government side as to what exactly is taking place. At this point, we're going to invite our viewers and listeners who may have questions in relation to the situation. The landline 435-2041. WhatsApp, it's also 435-2041. Please, only written messages on WhatsApp. You can continue to post your comments, questions, queries, concerns on Facebook and YouTube as well. To those of you Right, yes. Let's go to the phone lines. Good morning, caller.
Robson, very quickly. You know me from day one. I have always say, and they just get vexed when I say that when these people come to us for we as the employer and the employees, we are paying their salary. They are public servants, including Keith Mitchell, and they are accountable to us. I have said so on this station on more than one occasion that we have entrusted the resources of the country to them. Everything that belongs to the country does not belong to Keith Mitchell and the 15 of them. And therefore, I've been saying over and over, we pay their salary. They have to come to us because they are accountable to us, because we have entrusted the estate to that estate called Grenada to them. And any time that they come on the radio and you tell them that, they're getting vexed. You talk about a school that they want to build. Is the people's money, is the taxpayers' money of this country, all the loans and everything that we have to pay. I have not seen no document where Grenada was left to Keith Mitchell in his personal capacity. It is not his land to do as he wishes, like for instance with the stimulus package, with the jab and so on. The money is not coming from Keith Mitchell's pocket. So I'm calling on the government, like I said. It's not I hate anybody. The bottom line is that we have given you a job. We don't have to thank you for what you're doing for us. You have to be accountable to us on all we're asking for. We need to know. We want to be transparent. Remember that you are a sovereign Keith Mitchell of the people and the ministers, and we paying your salary.
Okay.
We need to know. Just tell us that's all we asking. We hate you, Keith Mitchell, and stop this nonsense. All we asking for is we need to know, and you are accountable to us because we are your employer, and you are the employee.
Thank you very much. Mr. Phillip?
Thank you very much. Let me just make that point that, and in support of what the caller is saying. The National Democratic Congress was involved in a previous activity when this very Grenlec matter was dealt with in the past. And let me remind the public how this matter was dealt with. Let me remind the public in terms of what I mean by giving information. The government of Grenada went to the parliament of our country indicating, and was just prior to the election, so it wasn't anything fair of an electoral result, indicating that we have our willingness to sell. We created prospectus, giving it the National Democratic Congress, government of Grenada at the time, laying out what the terms and conditions. There were persons that bidded, companies and individuals. We said who the major shortlisted companies were. The three of them were shortlisted and then presented, and they made their case. The person who won that bid was WRB. It is that kind of practice that we expect and no less, because we are accustomed to transparent, responsible governance in our country. So don't expect us to accept anything less than that. And that is why I support the caller fully. This is why you must inform the people of Grenada. It is not your estate. It is our land. It is our homeland. So young people, you need to be asking, where is my stake in this? Where is my opportunity? If we now have in excess of 70% of the shares of Grenlec, what are we going to do with it? How am I going to be reached and be part and parcel of this? So I couldn't agree with the caller more.
There is a WhatsApp question. Your party represents 23,000 voters, and yesterday we saw 3 members of your party protesting the issue. The question is, why the NDC party cannot bring out a massive show of supporters to join the protest to send a message to the administration? And why not call a massive protest on Saturday when people are home and will be a part of, as we've seen in the US and other countries around the world?
Right. And of course, let us remember, we are in COVIDious times. But the first thing, you see, we have to recognize that we have acted and we continue to act very responsible. The government of Grenada is the one acting irresponsible. So don't flip this thing on the head and turn it around as if to say the NDC are not being responsible. That is not the case. We have been very responsible in all our actions. And therefore, we do not wish to expose unnecessarily or put at risk in this very difficult time. We recognize, you noted when I started this conversation earlier on, I asked that people really think and be safe, observe the protocols. People, we are in this together. We cannot afford our country to be adding 12 and 15 and 20 cases of positive tests. COVID, it is not good. And that is a risk that we must be very careful. And we would have to consider all other actions. So let us get to that eventually if we have to. But for today, let us take it step by step. Rome was never built in a day. We all have a responsibility. And thanks for airing your views. And in your own corner, the person, the WhatsApper, and you help share with your colleagues, your family, your friends, the important issues that we have been talking about. And we have just proposed of 3 possible ways that Grenadians can get directly involved in owning shares and moving this process forward. That is what I think will be most appropriate at this time. Ultimately, we have a responsibility to the people of Grenada to protect the lives of the people of Grenada. And we must not act irresponsible. And we will continue to do that as a National Democratic Congress.
Good morning, caller.
Greetings, my dear. How are you?
I'm good. How you do?
Thank God. And your guests and the wider listening and viewing audience as far as the diaspora. Greetings. Give me a few minutes, sister. And I can recognize your continent. I recognize your position, listening. I recognize a sadness. I recognize a pity. Sorry if I'm judging you wrong. I recognize you absorbing. You are a young lady and you represent the youth. And this should be the concern of every one of us. Young, old, middle-aged, not too old. You're concerned about the direction of our country. But again, we have to console ourselves and say maybe it's God's destiny. I don't know. We are living in the last days. But permit me, greetings and spiritual strength for facing the challenges, mishaps, and uncertainty of our future, and to be more exact for our country, despite the COVID pandemic. Now, despite the nature and limitation of our Constitution, I want to say here that it must be respected. And with all the concerns and expressions raised by the public, and in particular by your guests today, I think the time has come for us to elevate our action and approach. The issue right now is not about the Prime Minister, about accountability. I think we are far past that. And those in government have us as laughing stock. It's not the first time this scenario has been played off. Let me mention here that there's no integrity in the government, despite we have a Grenada Integrity Commission. There's no obligation on the Prime Minister to disclose anything. We don't have a Freedom of Information Act. And there's no respect for the Parliament, because we see, even recently, the official leader of the opposition have been asking questions and we cannot get answers. And this has been going on and on. However, I want to point us to 2 things before I end. Let us go. Luckily, your guest mentioned about the Constitution. I represent the Constitution, in inverted commas, and I have a group referred to as the Constitution Caucus. And I personally have written to the Governor General on constitutional issues, including the declaration of the state of emergency. I want to know that when we ask for answers, we have to know whom should we get answers from, what answers are we expecting to get, and if we don't get the appropriate answers, what are the other actions? I want to lead my dear colleague to Section 63 and the other sections of the Constitution, which speaks to the whole idea of going directly right now to the Governor General. It's not about the Prime Minister now and Boeing and about Parliament. No. Governor General to be informed concerning matters of government. And may I read Section 63? The Prime Minister shall keep the Governor General fully informed concerning the general conduct of the government of Grenada, and shall furnish the Governor General with such information as he may request. He or she here refer to the Governor General with respect to any particular matter relating to the government of Grenada. We have to seek answers about the government via the Governor General. The time has come for that.
Okay.
In fact, let me say, sister, the second point I'm making. We have been signed in October 2019. China and Grenada signed an MOU on cooperation with the Belt and Road Initiative in 2018. And a very troubling section of it says, there will be greater focus on increasing experience with Grenada in state governance. How could we have a foreign country intruding on our sovereign independence to concern about our governance?
Okay.
Let us address this issue. It's not these petty things anymore. Let us raise the bar and let us be active in seeking what has to be done. The Governor General represents Her Majesty, the Commonwealth, democracy. Let us do it in the right way.
All right.
And I'm calling for everybody, including the NDC and other persons, to listen to the caucus as we try to engage in going forward for what is better for our future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alexander.
Thank you very much, caller. Caller, I totally agree, and I did mention the very section that you quoted a short while ago, that together we need to lift the bar. We really, and I genuinely believe that the people of Grenada expect no less of us. We need to lift our game. So I'm calling on all persons of interest. The people of Grenada need you now. The Bar Association, the Chamber of Industry and Commerce, the professional bodies, MWAG, the people of Grenada need you now more than ever. Now more than ever to lift your game, to appeal to the higher authorities, to Her Majesty through her representative here, under Section 63 of the Constitution and any other part. We need you, and we urge that we come together as a people and lift our, this is one time the people of Grenada has this opportunity to work assiduously together to get answers to our questions and to work to make that change. We now have controlling shares. You have now become the major shareholder once again at a great cost. At a cost, as I said, proportionate to building international airports to us. That is the decision we have made. But we are now in this position. What do we do as a people going forward? That is the National Democratic Congress call. Calling on all Grenadians, all walks of life, all professional bodies, all youth organizations, all farmers, all fisher folk. Let us together understand what is happening here and come forward and build Grenada together. This is a clarion call by the National Democratic Congress.
A YouTuber is asking, shareholders have a right to know what is happening with the other shares. Actually, do they have a right to vote on the issues that affect the company they own shares in, or is it that that's not how it works?
Well, from my limited expertise in this area, knowledge in this area, I'm not an expert. I wouldn't claim to be an expert in this area at all. There is a responsibility to have it on board, and that board will be constituted accordingly, and therefore the government of Grenada will appoint a board and they will direct the company, because I take it from now, from the discussion thus far, we have concluded that the board has changed, right? So we are now controlling the shares, a new board appointed, we're taking this thing forward together, and we are going to be giving directions to the company from here on out. Given that is the case, yes, the shareholders, the 1,600 people plus, are eligible to making their input as to how their company will run. And we would urge that the government of Grenada give that opportunity to them. So when this board is going to be appointed, I'm sure the interests of the people of Grenada and the shareholders in particular will be taken and given paramount importance.
There's a WhatsApp question. Somebody's asking, let not the Keith Mitchell administration try to hide behind so-called agreement between them and WRB to stay away from the media while the negotiations are taking place. Negotiations between government and WRB is one thing, where government is raising the money from is a totally different and independent matter. They have been allowed to negotiate in private, but now that agreement has been reached, the government is now obligated to refer back to the people, informing us of the agreement reached and consulting with us on the way forward.
I totally agree, and that is what we've been saying. You now that you have reached an agreement, and it's not on the 24th, we reach an agreement. I personally, and I urge, and I think they owe it to us, they had ample opportunities to say at least this was being done in the national budget, in the 2 national addresses that after the budget that has since been held. Not, as I said, not a word has been said. Now that you have gotten to this stage of the conclusion, we will get around to the financing part afterwards, because you will have to tell us where you're getting the money from or where you got the money from. But the least we would want to know is, where do we go from here? Now that we have this, how do you plan to get the people of Grenada more involved? We recognize your errors along the way, and we will beat you on the head for that. But hear what? You are the government of Grenada, and you have that responsibility to us. And we can't afford to be making more mistakes going forward. So we need to have the information so that we can guide ourselves and express in a very public way what we, the people of Grenada, see as the way forward in this matter.
And as we close, Mr. Alexander, another question on the WhatsApp. No, not this one. There was another one that asked, if the NDC was presented with the same opportunity, what would they have done differently? Because a lot of things are easier said than done.
Great. Well, first of all, the NDC track record is there to speak to this matter. And I indicated what happened when this very divestment took place in 1994. Remember what happened when the National Commercial Bank, now Republic Bank, was also divested back in 1992. Those are issues that we must recognize how this matter has been adequately dealt with. But let me, I don't know if you have the time, but let me give you a little personal experience with the shares. 1992, I remember when I came back from school in Jamaica, and we went around the country at every opportunity that the persons that were making public presentation to challenge them, me and a couple of friends, as to what they were saying in terms of the share value, the calculation of its value. Not that we didn't support the idea of privatizing the National Commercial Bank at the time, but we made sure we went around and we had that discussion openly so that we brought knowledge and information to the public. At the end of the day, the decision was made and we agreed that that was the correct one. You know, a few years later, when RBTT shares were going to be divested, that was 1998, the very issues that were raised back in 1992 around the shares of NCB, now Republic Bank at the time, that we went out there explaining. We said to the people of Grenada, listen, back here we told you that if we are going to do this together, we are going to be a more powerful unit if we brought all of these companies together, and the people of Grenada was going to be able to finance major transactions much more easy than we currently can with the 2 banks divided. Today, if those 2 banks were here, you know, we didn't have to bother about no foreign investor. We didn't have to bother about no potential 51% or otherwise, or some foreigner giving us some money, because we'd have had and strong enough with regional and international clout to help us finance any potential deal for the young people of this country, for the young professionals of this country, for the people in the diaspora who would have invested in that bank. That is the vision the National Democratic Congress and its leadership have for our country. And clearly, I urge that we regard that, we respect that, and we continue to build on that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Alexander, for being our guest this morning and sharing the party's thoughts on the unfolding situation. Appreciate it. Continue to stay safe.
Thank you, and you yourself and your listeners and viewers.
Thank you very much. Phillip Alexander of the National Democratic Congress, our guest this morning, as we continue to follow this electricity saga, as I call it, as we continue to follow how it unfolds. We thank him so much for being our guest. And thank you, our viewers and listeners, for tuning into the program. Always appreciate your listenership and your viewership. That's the end of my time with you today. Joseph is up next, and he'll take you through midday. Have yourselves an enjoyable Tuesday. Be safe. Continue to practice the protocols. Protect yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll see you tomorrow, God willing.